Salutations, my friends, and thank you for tuning into a very special edition of Factions of Freedom. This is actually a addition to a continuation, as I said before. If you listen to the previous episode, the previous Paranormal Perspective, I mentioned how I had someone who basically sent in a archive of all kinds of different dreams, premonitions, and visions that he was having. I wanted to do him justice by having him on the show. I actually go over all this and more in the actual interview, but I don't want to spoil it too much. But let's get into it. And this episode is called Premonitions, Visions, and Future Sight with Zach. All right. I think we're on the air. I'm not entirely sure. I think we are. Okay. But yep. This is more or less one of our more private episodes for the people that actually tune in now and or later. This is kind of one of our additional episodes. Definitely an extra. Basically, what this is, I don't want to say it's an addendum or an add-on or a plus to anything, but basically what it is a listener, a viewer, one of the people that follows what we do frequently on the page. He's submitted his stories a number of times to the Paranormal Perspective, and basically, I want to have him on the show to talk about some of the visions, some of the things that he's been seeing. The best way that I can set it up for you guys. When looking at this type of stuff is this man's been able to, if anything, he's been having these dreams the majority of his life, and he's recorded them. He's wrote them down, archived them, put them in a pretty crazy order. Reading them, they're definitely interesting, that's for sure. Some of them, they sound prophetic. Some of them sound like they're induced by Hollywood. Some of them sound like they're induced by his surroundings, his area. And there's a number of things, and there's a lot of symbolism and symbology behind it. So basically, I just wanted to have him on the show to talk about these types of things, to see what he feels. I don't think this is, and we talked about this before prior to whenever we were trying to set this episode up. He doesn't feel like he is a psychic or that he has these types of this ability, so to speak. This is something that he's lived with. And normally whenever you look at these types of things, this type of phenomena, so to speak, these visions, these dreams, these types of things, we hear that they end at a very young age. It might be that we're getting older. It might be that we're more engaged into the world, less distracted, less focused, more distracted. You see, that could be that. But what I aim to do in this episode is to see from his point of view, or at least to ask these types of questions from his point of view, and see what he thinks about these types of things. Because, like I said, the initial thing was to have him on the show to talk about. The initial thing, even with the stories in the Paranormal Perspective, like I said before, he submitted multiple stories, and some of what he hit me up with privately, it's as I said before, it's wild. So, excuse me. What I intend to do, as I said before, with this exclusive little part, if anything, this isn't exclusive. This is something that we'll add on to both feeds, something that's additional. But we'll play this out for you guys because I feel like this is information and a relationship that you can see with yourself. You see, whenever you're looking at this type of stuff, this is coming from somebody else. As I said before, a listener, a watcher, one of the people that follows what we're doing. And I felt like to have this kind of information on the air, out there publicly, would be good because then people could have a kind of kinship to it, a understanding, so to speak. So basically, what we're doing on now is just waiting for him to come on. And so, if anything, what we'll do is jump into the news. As I said before, it's not really a real episode, but to kill the time that way, people that are listening, we aren't wasting your time. So, in more news as far as Pedalgate, because I don't know if you guys saw, but I definitely made the timeline of articles and things that have come out since then in relation to Pedalgate and into Pizzagate. And you guys are more than willing to email me after this, or hit me up in the DM, and I'll message you, or I'll email you the actual the timeline that we do have, because it goes pretty far back. It definitely does. I wanted to have it as such. Excuse me. I wanted to have it as such. That way, people could understand that whenever people say Pedalgate is fake, or that Pizzagate's not real, it's fake news. I don't think they're truly understanding what exactly they're dismissing. And anytime we start talking about Pedalgate, I definitely tell people to go back to Ted Gunderson, the retired head of the FBI. He told us about this way before. You see, way before. But I think we have a caller. Let's see. Give them a...
How's it going, man?
Salutations, my friend. What's
going
on,
sir?
Zach? I'm very well, my friend. How are you?
Doing pretty good, man. Doing pretty good.
So it's definitely been a little bit of like phone tag trying to get a hold of one another for this whole episode, man. That's for sure.
yeah, man. That's family and work life for you, huh?
Hey, I understand entirely, brother. I understand. I just want to say I appreciate you coming on the show and taking out the time to do that.
No problem, man. I definitely don't mind. I know this was something probably a few years back I wouldn't have done, more so because I was, ashamed of stuff that I didn't understand and things of that nature. So it's something more of it being something I'm, willing. And I think some of the things that have gone on have kind of promoted me to kind of come into any opportunities to share and hopefully allow other people that might be experiencing that were like I am or are like I am or have felt that way to not feel that way and embrace kind of things that that happen and look at from a positive standpoint. So for sure, man.
I definitely agree. That was one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on, like in this special edition, is to like let you, because I wanted to talk about these types of things. We talk about it a lot on the show, a lot of the spiritual implications of these types of things. But I wanted to get you on because I felt like it was good to have kind of like a personable feel about these types of things. People who have these dreams or have visions or premonitions and things like this, they might feel ashamed, they might feel crazy, they might feel out there. But I feel like, through you literally like blogging your dreams and everything else, I feel like it would be good to kind of, I don't want to say put a face on it, but to explain it a little better, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think I know what you mean, and I think, like I said, the thing is that sometimes, unfortunately, as people, a lot of times, from depending on the different religions and whatnot, sometimes people want to see by sight, and in this case, I mean, it's face with words. Kind of what you're alluding to is still giving something that allows them to say, all right, what, this isn't just some nonsense. This is like somebody really kind of going through it, and that's kind of my prerogative, kind of like what I mean. Like I said, to share it because I've been in search for some help, some guidance, some clarity, some other folks that are dealing with it to maybe help guide me, because I know there's a purpose. I just don't know where or why and how. So again, like I said, I'm definitely the game to it, and I've had my experiences, and I believe this has kind of routed me in this opportunity with you to kind of be able to share those. So for sure, man.
So do you think talking about it, and I know that this might sound silly or just strange or simple even, but do you feel like talking about it helps it, I guess, come to realization or come to like terms? Like does talking about these types of things and writing it down, I guess, does that kind of give it more control in your view? Because I know you're still having visions and things. With this list, I know you're probably still having them, but by writing the list, does that make it easier to understand it?
I think it does to a degree. Sometimes, sometimes I don't know how much of it does. I think that the points of writing it down, the couple of things I think I spoke to you before when I spoke to you is it gives me I guess a few of the points is one, it gives me an idea on what I actually dreamt about, because the problem is that these things are so strong that in the moment, I wake up or whatever, it's there. I know everything that happened within minutes. And I'm not lying to you. My fiance's seen this. Within minutes, it will be gone. And you would think at times, depending on what it is, that our dreams, we can remember them, but they go away. I can't explain it to you. I've never dealt with stuff like this at this level. It's grown, and it's gotten more heightened as I've gotten older. So this is even before my awakened state. This is before the knowledge that I've been learning and through your page and others, and just my own due diligent research over the years. That this has been going on, but not like this. And so I actually have to track it to just get the idea that when I go back to sleep after I track it, I know that I have an idea of what happened, because otherwise what happens is I wake up with a migraine really bad all day, take ibuprofen or whatever just to kind of stop it, and it may, but the headache's even different.
Wait.
And then go ahead.
Let's see. If anything, before, because I definitely want to hear this. This is definitely awesome stuff. Let's set the stage for people, because they weren't having a conversation with me and you before we set this up. let's set the stage for people so they kind of know basically what we're talking about. I mean, I kind of told people that that this is, you wouldn't consider yourself prophetic or having premonitions or anything like this. This is something that you've kind of experienced your whole life, right? And normally, we hear about these things type of ending like whenever you're younger in age, but this is something that's progressed throughout your entire life. And as you were saying beforehand, they've kind of intensified. So, if anything, do you want to kind of set the stage from your point of view, because that's just what I have, and I want people to kind of understand where you're coming from, and then we'll go back to you kind of tracking your dreams and kind of everything from there if we can.
Yeah, I guess so. So just kind of talk about like how this is kind of come up to this point is what you're referring to, like what's been leading into it since being a child. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, this has been something that's been going on since I've been. I think I have one thing that I was always made fun of it by my family as a joke. I always had a really great long-term memory. I think this has been going on probably since I was 5 or 6 years old, and this being. I don't know, do you want to call it paranormal? But, experiencing, hearing, voices off and on sometimes at a young age. I told
people before the show that, one of the reasons why we kind of maintain contact, not only for business reasons, but also because, you submitted some of your stories to the Paranormal Perspective. And then, whenever we started having a conversation about this is kind of what set the stage for it, is because you had been having paranormal experiences, but outside of that, this is something that persisted. So please continue.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I mean, it's paranormal. I don't know what type of paranormal in particular. If it's a spiritual, like an angelic, godly thing, I'm not really sure, because it's been such a confusing thing to understand, but it has been absolutely something that experiencing at a young age, and there's been different levels as I've talked to you and on and off. There's different things that mitigate each other. It's not one dimensional, and so again, it started being young, seeing things sometimes at night, hearing things off and on. My name called a lot was one of them, in different directions. I didn't know where or why. I didn't know always the trace. I could just hear it, but sometimes I would go out and ask my parents. And I think we've always heard that conversation as kids. We might think our parents were calling us, for something, but it was actually a lot more persistent. It got to the point, as I, started getting older in age, where I started to see certain things. Whether it was even being awake with one of my sisters, and us pointing stuff out with that. To a point where the dreams started ramping up. Some of my dreams as a child started out as with this girl. This girl was in my dream for years, and this girl, and I didn't pay much. It was a girl with blonde hair. We were in a junkyard, and I was always running around. And the point, she was always very happy. As soon as we got to a certain point, there was all these demonic looking things that were there, and I never understood that. But as I got older, that got stronger, and they got bigger. I don't think I told you about this one, but they got bigger, and it got stronger. So every time I would start to see them as I got older, they looked the same, but they looked for some reason bigger. I didn't understand that, so I didn't understand what that was, or was that something particularly to my life. Was that a connection that as I'm getting older, these things are going to constantly be there? But she was never harmed. They always stared, but they never did anything, and I was always next to her. So
you're saying that the demons in the dream got bigger?
They got bigger. Yeah, they looked like they got taller. It was like a child being, a size of a child, like being 3 feet, 4 feet, and these things were looking like they were 50, 60 feet, and they constantly, every time I see them, they seemed to be bigger, or more of them circled around, towering, but they never did anything. They always just stood there. It was almost like as if they couldn't do anything. They just could only stare. And so that led into, other things. I know I had, not to jump around, but as a child staying in that, my parents had an experience where at a very, very young age, my dad woke up, and one night he said he was restless, and he woke up and something was standing over my crib. He could see it because the room was like directly across from his room, my room were directly across from each other, and he could see something.
And this is your dad saying that? This is your dad saying he could see something going in your? Oh wow! All right.
Yeah, we're kind of standing over. Kind of standing over the crib. Yeah, and he couldn't tell what it was. He didn't know. He just kind of moved my mom in a way within the process of him getting up, which was enough to kind of like make her get up and yell her name. That allowed him to get her to get up, and he ran over there and he checked my room. So he hit the light, nothing was there. He shut it off to stand to see back from his room to see had anything changed, and it was whatever it was not there. What made that more interesting is years later, as I'm, which is one of the experiences I had. I heard somebody calling my name from the kitchen, and it kept calling my name until I got to my bedroom. And it stopped there, but I never went into my room, and it was stuff like that. And I was like, I'm not going in there. And it was even at a young age, I was just like, things were like, that's weird. I don't know what that is, so I left it alone. But then I started seeing things in my room. Now I'm like 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. These dreams are still happening, but now I'm starting to see something. I wake up in the middle of the night, and I'm laying there from a dream I had, and I'm seeing these different weird shadows at my door. And I had one where it was probably like, I still remember it was like 3 in the morning, 2:30, 3 in the morning. My dad used to work third shift, so he just got home not too long ago. And I'm laying there, and I roll over, and I see somebody at the door with a hat. And I just was frozen. The best way to explain it to you, I was frozen. I couldn't do anything, but I just stared, and it just stared at me back. I didn't see anything, no eyes, nothing. It was just dark.
Could you see a silhouette, or like how could you tell that it was some kind of guy with a hat? Like, could you describe him?
I think because it was like, there was like the lighting in it was weird. Like, if you ever lay in the dark when there's nothing on, your eyes adjust to the darkness. And if there's any little bit of lighting that can kind of help you clarify the room, or you can see it that way. So I think it was in the hallway. There wasn't really a light there in the hallway per se, but there was a light. My parents had, was upstairs. It was a 3-floor house, so it was upstairs. My dad had a big fish tank that was down in the living room, which is down below this balcony. So it kind of gave a little bit of light, but not a lot. But it was enough that if somebody were to be there at the doorway, you could see him. And it was a guy with like a kind of like I wouldn't say like a sheriff hat, but kind of something similar. And he was standing there, and he was tall.
The fedora, maybe.
By the door, yeah, by the door, yep. By the door, and my door was open. My doorway was there, so I seen the outline of my door. Everything was visible. I could see everything in my room. As I was saying, I had enough lighting that was there to kind of give me that adjustment. But it was just the shadow that was there, and it really looked like it was like my dad standing there. I thought at first, but my dad doesn't wear those type of hats. My dad doesn't have this type of look like I guess you could say like kind of like what the detectives or I forgot the type of jacket it is, that type of jacket that they wear, but you could see it was over the shoulders, it was broad on the shoulders, and it just stood there, and I was staring for a few minutes.
I think it's a duster and a fedora. What you're talking about?
A fedora, yeah, exactly, yep, exactly. So exactly, and I know my dad didn't wear those, so I'm looking at it, I'm like, all right, this is not right, but I couldn't say nothing. I was like shocked, and I kept looking at the time, and I was like, all right, now it's like 2 and 3 minutes going by to stare. So I was mad that I did this, but I ended up getting really, I just couldn't speak. I couldn't do anything. But I was there, and I was like, all right, if I either get up and run, or just run right through this door, or I just yell as loud as I could. So again, I'm like 10 or 11, 12ish in that range. I'm actually like 11 or 12, and I remember just screaming really loud for my dad, and he actually ended up, like, I remember I screamed loud, and mind you, my dad, I think the way I yelled, it wasn't enough to be like, my dad, like, what's going on, what's up? It was enough to let him know something was wrong. So he ran over, but in the midst of me yelling, I heard the covers on. I didn't want to look anymore, and I was like, just yelling. I was yelling, and I kept yelling. So I knew he heard me. And again, like I said, my dad was still awake because of the third shift. Excuse me, I think it was second shift or whatever shift that you get off at like 2:30, 3 in the morning. I don't know what shift that was, but and he ran in and he like, what's going on? He flipped the light on. My switch was right next to that doorway, like I was telling you about. So I could have gotten up and hit it, but again, I couldn't. And I told him what happened, and he was like, what's going on? And I was like, I don't know, like, this is thing here. I woke up to see it, and my dad was like, all right, well, let me hit this light off, and I'll stand by you. The light off, and it's gone. And I'm like, no, there's no way. So I told him put the hallway light on and flip it off. Gone. Nothing. I remember it clear as day. I swear I felt like I was crazy, but I know I wasn't. I looked at this thing for a few minutes, and I'm awake, just laying there. I'm not. There's no dream, none of that. And I told my dad about it, which then he ended up deciding to share that story about what he told me about him seeing something in my crib when I was little. And he was concerned. He didn't want to make a big deal about it. I understand now. As a child, you don't want to do that with your children. So you kind of gave me the sense of knowing that maybe I wasn't crazy, but he also gave me some information on something that I didn't know anything about that he decided not to tell me, but he felt was comfortable at that time to say, you know what, I guess I needed to know. So, that was some of the stuff I started dealing with. I started feeling at times I felt like something was behind me. Different times I started to see some different times in the same house where there was a point where I was in the house by myself, and my grandmother was on the phone. My grandmother is a preacher. I love both my grandmothers, but my one is a preacher, and she's the one that taught me how to pray at a young age. And I think I shared this with you also, but she taught me how to pray at a young age because she felt when I was young that I would need to know how to pray, in particular, how to protect myself. And I remember when she told me it when I was young, I never understood it. I didn't understand it until a while later how, to me, in my belief, and I understand everyone believes differently, so I respect that, but in my belief, that, the power of prayer can do a lot for somebody, and for me, it's allowed me, it's protected me. Yeah, exactly. I mean, everyone has a different mindset behind it, but it's allowed me to feel that I'm able to use that to protect myself, my family, my friends, and be thankful and pray. It does. It really does. The power of the tongue is still the strongest weapon there is, in my opinion.
I agree.
So,
Amen, for sure.
point, you know what I mean, she kind of went on and kind of gave me information about it and what it meant. And I actually was learning how to pray probably more abnormally than most kids could at that time. Again, she was a preacher, so of course I'm sure a lot of kids that have preachers that were dads or moms, you know, can kind of maybe agree to that sentiment that, you know, you have a little bit more knowledge on how to, and just in kind of in involving your emotions and your spirit in the midst of praying. So, but with that, you know, I kind of started to have this conversation with her one day. Now, this is a little bit after. This was all around the same time period with stuff that was going on with my room and stuff. And I'm on the phone and I'm telling her this, and I'm sitting downstairs, and I could feel like something was in the house. There was energy. I couldn't explain it to her, but she seemed to have known because she could hear me and my voice was like I was determined. She could even tell that my mom was wondering. I had seen something that looked like, the best way to describe it, and I wrote it in one of my old dream books, was like I was at the end of my room and I was leaving. I was on the phone with her, and I'm opening the door, and it looked like this shadow rained down the side of the hall and down the steps, and it cut into the which was the dining room, which led out into the kitchen and this other living room my parents had. But it was so fast, it looked weird. I'm like, and I explained it to her. I'm in the middle of talking to her, telling her this, and it looked like somebody taking a pencil and just doing a bunch of like a scratch, like a shading, kind of like you're shading in, like a shading line, kind of like just going down. If you were to color in something, it was like just a shade. It's the best way to explain. I told her, and it just jetted down, and I couldn't explain it to her any better. So then she's constantly talking to me about things, and I'm sitting there on the couch, and it felt like this energy that wherever it was in the house, and she started praying more, and she told me to close my mind off and listen to her voice, and whatever she was doing, her praying and her talking to me, it allowed me to not only become at peace, but it took away whatever it was that was making me feel that way. So, again, these are just some of the things that come.
These are lifelong experiences. What we're talking about, we're lifelong experiences where you're talking about the power of prayer. You know, all kinds of different paranormal experiences. So this is basically something that's been with you your entire life. So you're entirely, the paranormal is definitely not paranormal. It's normal to you.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, I think it's because it has at times, and a lot of times, for a majority of my life, it has ruled me secretively. A lot of people don't know that I've experienced it because, more so because I think, as I said in the beginning, I was ashamed of it. I thought there was something wrong with me. You know what I mean? So,
brother, you are a Hmong family. Whenever it comes to that, trust me. Yeah, I think we all have that same kind of like understanding whenever it comes to this type of stuff. We don't want to sound crazy. We don't want to seem like we're weird. We don't want to seem like we're out there, you know, doing insane level stuff. But, you know, like I said, talking about this type of stuff, I feel like having this kind of personable level to it, it adds that level of like humanity to it. This is not paranormal, like I'm saying. Like this is real. This is natural. Absolutely. Having all this stuff take place and realizing what you're seeing is very real, and understanding that you can do something about it. You know, praying, realizing that this isn't your energy, realizing that these things that will continue to keep coming back unless you do something about it. I feel like that's what people need to understand.
Absolutely, and I agree 100%. It's crazy because I can tell you that, you know, my fiance didn't. I don't believe she knew to the extent that she's seen when I first, you know, met her a long time ago, and to some of the things I kind of told her about then, you know. And then eventually when we moved in, as I kind of alluded to, I think some of the stories you and I talked about with my children, even that unfortunately is going on. Mm-hmm. But she started to see these things that she couldn't explain, you know, that she had no answer for. She has nothing other than what she sees. And at times she's trying to have a justification because she wants that to be, because at the same time she didn't grow into that. She even told me, and by all rights, I understand why at times people that don't experience things have such a strong opinion against it. I get that, because you don't have the understanding. But like a lot of things, whether it being, unfortunately, for people that are victims of racism, rape, you know, other type of molestation, unless you're there, you have to, you know, you can have that opinion. And I'm not one to tell anybody differently. I know I have a strong opinion myself, and I have it with other people in conversations. But in all honesty, unless you're there, you have to understand a difference of, just like being a ball player or sports player, you can have that mindset of, you know, you can share your opinion, but unless you're really in that, you don't really know the magnitude of it. So at the same time, as much as you want somebody to respect your opinion, you got to respect those that are actually part of that. And as you said, a lot of times those that experience these things, it's why those things are such a felt detriment, because we feel like we're alone. You know, I mean, it's really, it's plain and simple. You think about, we see things like the X-Men and stuff like that. I'm using analogies for to kind of keep people engaged into my thought process personally, but that's a prime example. People, you know, in that genre, X-Men, people don't understand mutants. They think everything's bad, evil, you know, crazy stuff. They're gonna kill, do this, and that's a lot of the case wasn't the case. But that's what ignorance can do, you know. And then by the definition, it's just not knowing. So again, to your point, you know, other people experiencing, like my fiance, there was points where, you know, sharing these things she didn't understand, and this has been a lifelong thing that I've had to battle. And then it's at a point where my family, who my parents raised me, my sisters that were with me that experienced things, I've separated my experiences from them to the point that it's moved up past them. Meaning my family's all dealt with different things, but nothing like what I have, nothing on the level, and nobody in my family, nobody I've went to has any explanation, including my grandmother, who's a preacher, other than her believing in her thought is that one day I'm going to be a preacher. But she, as I agreed, I don't think it would be the preacher of the church per se in a church. And I talked about this with a buddy not too long ago, that, not to get off too topic from what you were saying, you know, I want to stay within your realm of your questions. But I talked to a buddy, I said, sometimes I think the people that are the most awakened right now and the people that are experiencing a lot of these things are the people that may be the people that God uses when the time comes for different things that we know is the inevitable. And I'm referring to, you know, you can call it apocalypse, you can call it end times, you can call it whatever you want to call it, but it's talked about in my belief, and it's talked about in the Bible, that there's people that will be used for different things to help those. And I firmly believe that these are the people that we see today, whether it's your pages or people like yours that have pages that are there to encourage the people to share the world and enlighten people in their minds and let them do the research, but really enlighten their minds and be there, because these are people that are experiencing these things firsthand. And my grandma always says, what we experience is not for us; it is for us to help those later down the road. So I firmly believe whatever I'm dealing with.
That was going to be one of my quick questions. I definitely want to hear you keep going. That was going to be one of my next questions. Is do you feel like because people like yourself are having so many of these premonitions and visions and having this kind of future sight, by bringing it forward to people who want to be the agents of change, do you think that we're able to actually alter the future? I mean, some things do have to come to pass. I mean, you know, we're all aware that Babylon will fall, and there's certain prophecies that are already taking place. You know, I do believe there are certain things going on within the age that we're living in, as well as other prophecies that have been put out there. You know, this, that, and the third. But do you think by yourself being given these types of visions, and other people as yourself given these types of visions and doing these subtle things here and there, do you think you're able to counteract the future, or do you believe that ultimately these things will eventually all come to pass? Because that's eventually something I want to get into later with you, is some of your previous visions or your previous dreams, and if they have actually come to pass. But what do you think about the concept of that, of knowing certain types of futures and certain types of outcomes and being able to do certain things about it?
Well, I think it's a great point, man. And again, I was talking with my fiance. She's talked about this too. You know, what can you do, or like, is there anything you can do? And I've been on the fence about it. You know, because I don't know per se how much we can. I'll refer to myself. I don't know how much of that I can affect, because I have been looking for the direction of what is it that I'm supposed to get out of this. I know that this happening this long, there's no way that at my age, for as long as it's been going on, that this could be going on just because it's going on. I firmly believe in the fact of that, you know, God uses these things to draw you in for different purposes. And my father always said to me, he says, you can ignore God as long as you want, but it makes you suffer that much longer. In other words, as he stated, what will be requested upon for you to do will be done. It's just a matter of whether you realize it the easy way or the hard way. So to your point, I think that there is a point of being able to change either certain outcomes or even be able to save lives per se, being careful with that, but save lives per se, or just being able to share information that others may not have. So I think to your point, I think there may be ways to alter it, but I also feel like by that I mean more so in the moments of what may be the time. Because right now, if you think about where we're at, you and I having this conversation, and we could, let's just say this was everywhere. And of course, there's tons of people that may even listen to the show. They're like, oh, this guy, this and the third. Who is this guy? Whatever it may be. That's the time. But there's a time for everything. There's a place for everything. And when things, as you and I know, fall into and continue to fall into place, more people will continue to be awoken. More people will understand the faith that's been instilled in them. More people will want to seek understanding. So I think that in those times, people like you or I or others that are in that mindset will be called upon in a way to help, whether it's information, whether it's to bring in being spiritual, whether it's to be able to bring in a stronger sense of faith through the experiences. And so I agree, yes, I think that it can be ways to change the outcome, but I don't know if it's the outcome of the world, more so it is the outcome of our spirit. I believe that what will happen, there's not much that can be done. I think it's more of in the outcome of our soul, our spirit, because as I said, I don't know about when the rapture and all those things will occur. There's a lot that, must fall depending on how everyone wants to depict it. But I do believe that God uses people to be able to have that, and that connection from a soul to soul, that will be the way to help bring his people, the people of God, even those that may not even know God, to be able to understand, because even people that don't believe are starting to wonder and question and see. There's not always answers to everything scientifically. We can just say that and that makes us feel better, because we don't want to question sometimes the bigger power, the higher things. But to your point, man, that's a great question. That I agree that I think there is a way to change it, but I don't think it's the world, man, because the world as it is going to go its own directions. It's just a matter of the souls and spirits that will be actually yearning for those things, because as you and I both know, for different things, our souls, and just like our flesh calls on things, our souls call on things. And there will be a direction, there will be a time where our souls take over our flesh as far as requesting and needing and wanting and understanding the things that are happening. And I think that's where the people that have these experiences will be the prime source of helping others. So.
No, I think that is a fantastic answer. I think that was thorough, concise, and straight to the point.
Yeah.
One of the next questions I wanted to ask you, because you definitely blew me away with that one. It's really good. But do you think of any of the dreams that you've had already, any of the previous dreams that you've had, have you seen them kind of, I guess, in retrospect, have you seen any kind of checkpoints reached, or have any of your dreams come true? Have any of your visions come true? Whenever you look back at some of these dreams that you sent me from 2015, I'm sure you have ones that are earlier and later,
right.
but have having these dreams, have they made you make different choices because of what have and have not come true?
Absolutely. So to both questions, I guess I'll answer with the second part first, because it's a more short-winded question. I think some of the dreams I've had have made me change certain things. I know one of the ones that is very sensitive to me from a point with just how I feel about God and loving and believing in God that I had. And I think I told you about this a while when I first started talking to you, and it's very deep. And this is when I actually don't mind. This was my breaking point, and this was probably it was in 2015. 2015, I believe 2015, towards the end of 2015, at my breaking point of me being uncomfortable going out and talking to people about what's going on with me and why I need to tell you. And that was where I had been, again, experiencing things. Just so many examples, man. I don't want to go, but I'll stay with this one. There was a point where I had a dream, and in this dream, I was actually starting to have and you had this on your post about the sleep paralysis. I was having that experience, which it's not sleep paralysis at all, in my opinion, whatsoever, any way possible. Yeah, whatsoever, man. There's the amount of things that I've seen in that state, the pressure, the times I've laid,
it's demonic.
It's happened. Yeah, it's. I've had it most times demonic. There was one time where it was pressure and a loud, like a noise where you hear, like you see in the movies when a grenade bursts by someone's ear and you hear that noise, that white noise type noise, and all I felt around me was white. But anyway, to your point, I was having that experience in 2015 around July, August, and this was around the time, and I know this was big about the Pope. Pope was coming the following year. I don't know if it was last year or the year before. So I'm trying to keep my dates because I have all my stuff listed. But we were having, I was having this dream, and I went from the sleep paralysis thing right into a dream. So I woke up and I went back to sleep, and I just started having experiences, and I was like, man, this is crazy. I was having a scary dream. I don't remember what it was about. And then I had sleep paralysis again happen, and I was like, okay, all right. Got up, and I was just really upset. I was actually I woke up, my fiance, I was upset. I was angry. I felt like something was in the house bothering, messing with me, and I had it. I was so upset. I took my Bible, as my grandma always showed me, took my oils, blessed every corner of the house, in the house, my children's room, my children, myself, my fiance. I blessed everyone. And I came back in. I opened up the windows. I rebuked in the name of Jesus to get whatever it was that was just messing with me. I was just sick of it because it's just, like I said, something that, as you can hear in my voice, it's just something that's just tiring. That just like it's just like a ache, a toothache sometimes because you don't understand why. Why? What's the purpose? Where is it coming from? The source. And I was just mad. And I remember getting up, and after getting up and doing all that and praying, I came back to my room and I just prayed more again out loud. And my fiance was up sitting in bed and she was just trying to calm me down. And I was like, no, they're tired of this. Like, I don't get it. Like, why? And I started praying. And I started getting really mad. I got really emotional. I started almost yelling at God almost. And it was crazy because I never would do that, man. I'm fearful of doing that, to be honest. I can be upset. We can always be upset with things that happen in our life, but there's nothing I would take directly towards God because I understand the giving God, the loving God. But anyway, I was doing it. I started getting emotional. And I got more emotional, more angry, and just begging, like, what do you want from me? And that's where I started saying, what do you want from me? Why are you doing this to me? What is it else that I can do? Why am I experiencing this? Why have you not given me anybody? What is it that you want me to see? In the midst of me doing that, literally, you could ask my fiance, and I put this on everything. I fell. I stopped, and I fell to my knees. I just started bawling my eyes out, man, because I was just so mad. And I didn't know what to do, and I was shedding tears. I'm praying, and out of nowhere, I promise you, this is on my God. I swear, in my life, that immediately I just stopped. And this message in my brain, the best way to tell you it, was like somebody was feeding texts of a message that was being filtered into my brain. That as my eyes were closed, I could see it, and God was allowing me to see these lists of names of people's names that I don't know who they are, and those people that I seen that I did, people that were relevant in my life now that aren't relevant in my life then, or vice versa. And I was trying to understand. There was
like
coming down
information.
Downloaded information, like literally like Star Wars. It was coming down. It was like a matrix. It was coming down like the end of a credit scene. It was coming down, just rolling down names, and and it was black. It was just white letters, black. And this is with me awake. My eyes were closed, and in the midst of doing that, I stopped, and I'm just quiet. My fiance kept talking. I could hear her talking to me. What's wrong? Why are you quiet? What's wrong? And then God says to me, He says, let these people know who I am. Let them know what will come. Let them know that their faith will be tested, but don't be ashamed to talk about who I am to them. You don't understand, man, how I could to this day it gives chills on my back, my arms, how amazing and crazy at the same time it felt, because I was at my wits this night, man. I was at my end, which is how upset I was, because I was literally at a point where my hands were up, like I don't know what else to do. This has been ruining my life. These type of things, these paranormal experiences, these things I don't have answers for my family. Nobody has given me an answer, and people just see me dealing with it, and all I can do is deal with it on my own. So me doing that and having this happen, and God talking to me like that, it literally made me go, And after I did this, I shed more tears, but my mind was awake. He was like, don't be ashamed of who I am. Don't be ashamed to talk about who I am, because people will question, but don't be ashamed of that. Tell them, let them know, because their faith will be tested. And this was about a year and a half ago, man. And I literally went and texted almost everybody on my phone about what happened, as if I've never shared this with nobody, and I was worried about what people thought about me. And I didn't care. I went through and told people at my job that I never talked to ever, and told them, look, I seen your name here. I don't know what it means. I don't know when it comes, because I don't question God's time, because I don't know when things will be. But I just want you to know this is what I was told. And I know I might sound crazy to you, but I cannot not ignore this. I'm not going to ignore what I've seen and what this message will program my brain. And to that day, man, that changed everything about me sharing my points, my visions, my dreams, my experiences, leading me up to meeting you and having these conversations where I don't feel at all weary about what's happening, because I feel like the end point is to share these things, because God wants his presence to be known. He wants himself to know, to let people know he's not a forceful God, man. This isn't somebody saying, hey, you got to come out there and believe me. Hey, you got to do this. Hey, unlike the devil, who's going to give you temptation, who's going to give you anger, who's going to give you all these things. He's just saying, like, look, it's there for you if you want. I'm here. I'm not forceful, but look, can you do this for me? I'm allowing you to go through these things. I need you to share this message, and you're the best person at this moment, and that's what I went through. So to answer your question, long story short, as drawn out as that is, with that magnitude of experience, it changed everything about how I believe. I don't feel shame, and if I have an opportunity to share something with somebody, I'm going to do it, because it might change how they see things. And some of the people I shared it with at my job, I've gotten so close with, they've experienced things. We have these conversations on a daily basis, and it allowed me to know, man, that sometimes other people that even believe God need to hear these things, because it reminds them just how powerful he is, and just how much his message is to get across, and how he will use different people for different things. So to that point, man, that's really all it got me to where I'm at. It really changed how I seen things. I had a 9/11 happen as a dream in my dream book when I was a kid, right before it happened, probably months before. I didn't know it. I just wrote it down and told my mom about it. We tracked the dream when it happened.
Before we jump onto the premonitions, I definitely want to jump back and say, I think that's definitely inspiring for a lot of people to see, or at least for a lot of people to hear. That whenever you have encounters like with these shadow people and this sleep paralysis, how it basically equivocates to you getting closer with God, and basically what that means. I don't know how I interpret that, how you tell me that type of story, how I see it is whenever you're having the literal forces of hell, you're literally having the adversary try to take you. Whenever you were telling me about the story and I was just listening, it makes me start thinking of how you've had these experiences your entire life and how they've kind of how they've culminated to a point to where it kind of seems like not impossible, but a little bit overwhelming. And then once you basically cry out to God, basically once you bare your soul to him, he basically gives you this information, this people's list, this informational download, this message. He gives you this calling, and I think that's something that a lot of people need to take the time to realize that can and does happen. I myself have definitely had like experiences where it's like you're at your wit's end. You've tried everything, you're at your bare minimum, and you just reach out to God, and you're just like, why am I going through all these hardships? Why are all these types of things affecting me? Why don't we see any of the success that I'm wanting? That's because we're seeing it through the lens of ourselves. We're not seeing the overall effect that it's having because we're not expecting it, and it comes in different forms. And I feel like for you, for these shadow people encounters, this sleep paralysis that surfaced that night and how it transformed you, I think that's just something that people need to highlight. And so, if anything, like I said, having you on the show to talk about the continuation of these types of things, basically, and how I don't want to say the awakening, but the realization, the revelation of God, realizing what that means, realizing that there is much more going on, how that's affected you. I think that's something that's key as well. And, these premonitions are evidence of it. And this isn't something that you can control. And, I think people need to see that as well. As everything that we are talking about, this is a culmination. This is looking retrospectively. This is not with glory and glitz and glamour. There's definitely hardships that come with these kinds of callings for real. But I think it's also nice to highlight the good things that come with it as well, and realizing what that means for the overall goal.
I agree 100%, man. I think it's I think you nailed it on the head. I think when you're gonna get closer, you gotta understand that there's, or when you're trying to get closer. And I have to tell you, man, I don't even know if it's always been me. I think that's been my soul. And I think there's a separation in you and your soul at times. And what I mean by that is the flesh and soul, which, what I talked about before. And then there's obviously a complete difference. I know I've referenced it about how the flesh is of the temptation, the flesh is of want, the flesh is of anger, the flesh of just, greed. People have different things that is not your soul at all, man. That's, again, that's just the vessel.
And that's the tendencies, those are the physical urges of the flesh.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. And not to go too much in the Sunday church, but that's kind of and it's for all of us with those things that we have flaws that are built in that way, and kind of knowing how to try to do our best to either control them or understand that there is a control level that you have with that, and once you do have that control in these things, that's your soul that's actually controlling the flesh, and not the flesh controlling the soul, allowing me to lock off the soul. So I agree with you, man. I think that when you're dealing with wanting to get closer, as some of the things that I've dealt with, I don't even know if that was more so me at times, one of these things at different points in my life, but more so my soul. Because again, like I said, as you're saying, I think my soul has yearned for the objective that God has at the down road. And whatever may or may not happen in my future, I know I've already impacted certain people by some of the things that has happened to me that they're aware of. And I think that's the bigger, point that I wanted to, again, also share this with you and to share with everyone, that you understand that, when what you have, as I said, what you have and what you go through is not for you at all. As much as we want it to be about us, and I get, and trust me, again, I've been through just things that have nothing to do with this at all, that it's been very unfair to my life and my childhood. But I also understand that in retrospect, those things are pillars to make sure that the people that I care about, my kids, whoever may be, don't experience those same things. And that's that message that's passed down. So again, I agree 100%. And I think you nailed it on the head as far as just the culmination of wanting to do better, wanting closer, and having to understand and expect that the challenges that will be there that be faced, but at the same time to call out and really embrace that. But I don't think that it should always have to come to wanting to call out to the point that you feel forced, but be encouraged to naturally want to. I think at the time where I was at, that was my soul at its end, where I was like, yo, you got to knock on the door. Like, look, you got to get to this point. I almost felt like you're behind right now. You're behind where you're supposed to be at. This is going to be forced out, and I think that's what it was. But if you're on the road of trying to encourage and find God, or just trying to better yourself, continue to be embracive on that. Don't ignore what you want as far as being better for you, God, or whatever it may be, because again, the end route is that you're going to get to wherever you're going to get to. You're just going to get either the hard way or the easy way. It just all depends on you. So.
No, you're right. I definitely feel that that's one thing. And this is something that we talk about on the show all the time. Is listening to your soul, not listening to the flesh, listening to the source energy, listening to God, listening to where we come from, instead of this artificial energy, whatever society is driving and whatever society is pushing. And I don't want to derail on that too much, but I definitely agree. That's one thing that we have to put ourselves underneath subjugation. We have to call ourselves into calm. We have got to keep our flesh in check. We can't always listen to it. Those are urges. Those are things of the physical nature. We're not physical creatures. We're spiritual creatures having a human experience right now. And whenever we're talking about these types of things, that's why our bodies are the vessels that act out the very spiritual nature that is going on in the world. And whenever, if anything, and this is, I think, a reason why we should springboard into some of your premonitions. That's why I was saying before, by you having these types of these dreams, these premonitions, and these visions, do you think that now, because if you start putting them out, if anything, I'd love to have you back on the show frequently and talk about whatever visions you're having regularly. But do you think by putting out your visions, it allows people to take actions in smaller ways? And I know you said that before. You already answered it. Basically, people having to do the soul work. But I feel like that's one of the reasons Why, if we listen to the source, if we listen to God, if we listen to that calling, what is telling us to do what we're supposed to do, instead of falling for the temptation of the flesh, I feel like that's whenever we stop having turmoil of the soul, so to speak.
Yeah, and I agree 100%, man. And I think. People that are close to me can actually agree onto your. I mean, again, as you said, you're already answered the question, but I have to agree 100% because I talk about this all the time, man. I've talked about it with a few people. I know I am personally. I'm at a battle with myself, and my grandma talked about it. She's like, you can't live within the world and live within God. There's going to be a point where there's going to be a choice that's going to be made, and it's true. And you can say whatever you want to say and disagree, but I really firmly believe that there's a point that's going to come to a crossroad where that decision will be made. And I think what mine is where my issue is, and I think my thing I've noticed is that my soul is already ready to be the Zach of who I'm supposed to be going forward. And so the person or the Zach of that flesh or the Zach that because I know I'm still going to make mistakes regardless of whatever transition I have. But the Zach of where I'm at is holding on to whatever's left. But it's almost like it's like kicking someone out the door. Like they're out the door. There's no way you're not getting out the door. But they're holding on to whatever's left that little longer time. And that's where I'm at. And I agree 100%. I think once you listen to the soul more and you do things through the soul, and there is actually that message in your mind that will be saying, hey, like Zach, you shouldn't be like that side. It's not always just that good side, bad side. Sometimes that's just your soul, and it could be good side your soul and the bad side being a temptation. However you look at it, but when you have that side telling you like, do this, you are right. You shouldn't do that. This and that is not always just your intuition. That's always something else a little bit better because it's something there's something inside that knows you better than anybody else. And so I think that if you can focus on that and follow your soul, you do avoid a lot of issues, man. And I know I've seen it for myself when I have listened to myself versus when I haven't. So I know that I can apply that for myself and say on my behalf that I agree 1,000% with that point that you made. So.
Let's I got one more question for you, and then let's get into some of your premonitions, some of your dreams, because I think some of the ones that I've read, they're definitely crazy, and but I want to break them down with you. But
sure.
What are your thoughts on, as you talked about before, the power of prayer? But what are your thoughts on both meditation and prayer? Some people think that meditation is whenever you zero out the world and you listen to what God has to tell you, versus prayer, where you're talking things out and you're explaining, or you're talking. You're asking for types of things. What are your thoughts on meditation and prayer?
Well, it's crazy because I've read into meditation a few times. I've done a little bit of it, not a lot, because I've read oddly enough, good and bad things about it. So I really don't have a plethora of knowledge on the meditation side per se. But I know there are similarities there with the prayer. I know for prayer, just talking it out, it's amazing, man, how sometimes, it's weird how sometimes just taking time to pray can really just not only ease your mind, it can do a lot of things. That's why I said, man, the power of prayer is so understated, underestimated, and of course, there's a lot of people that don't want to talk about it because, again, we're always, as a society, we want to be there is to control us. It's to control our potential. Calling on the prayer of God, if that's who you believe and that's what you believe in, or for self, I guess, even for meditation, however you want to look at it. But I know for me, for prayer, calling on God and calling on what you need, asking for forgiveness. Man, there's been times where I've done things wrong, acted on it, and the only thing that can get me through it, man, is just praying and repeatedly praying till I fall asleep, repeatedly praying at work, praying on the way to a job. Man, and it's literally, there's no other sensation that can give that peace of mind. Not me talking to you, my fiance, my mom. There's none, and it's just really when you're having that conversation, at least with me with prayer, that you're knowing that someone is there to listen and know that you have the intentions. If you did something wrong, that you had better intentions, that you can learn. If you're needing help, that you believe that you're actually asking for it. If you need, care or hope, that those things are things that will be given to you. And it's not something to me that you can actually have with somebody else. And that's why, as we said, the soul is such an amazing embodiment that something that we embody that it's just not talked about enough. It's just scientifically there's always something for it, but it's just something about that, man, that has such a natural side that I don't know how much more to tell people sometimes when they say about, like, I have a few people that that don't believe, and I respect them. I know somebody that didn't believe for a while and does now a lot. So, but the one thing that I've always kind of stayed on is that when you do pray, man, and you really do, and you get the chance to talk, you really feel like there's a relief, there's a peace. And so, for those that do pray, and I know can agree that are listening to this, they all know they're listening, know that it literally can take you from 0 to 100. It can literally change your moods and get you feeling great. It can literally heal you or people around you. It can literally give you what you need, who you need, where to get it, all those things, man. But it's not talked about enough, and that's because that's our potential. That's because it's by society we are not allowed to hear a lot of things that are supposed to be good for us, whether it be food, all those things. It's not talked about enough because only a certain amount of people should know about it. So again, I don't know tons of meditation, but prayer, man, has saved my life so many times. It's allowed me to be forgiven. Just asking for forgiveness before I go to sleep, because I beg for God to allow me to wake up the next day to see my children if He allows it. It's allowed me to get out of an accident that I almost lost my life, and other people that are around me. So I can't say enough about prayer, man. It's got to be besides your tongue, it's got to be the number one thing that seals your life, your protection, and if you go where you go after your afterlife. So.
I think that's a perfect answer. Let's get into, if we could, some of your premonitions, if you'd like.
Yeah. So I've had a few. I know I've had some referring to just my nightmares. Well, not nightmares, but some of them I have had with just the wars that are coming, the pending war, the warnings of them. I've had some with. There's so many of them, but I've had some with recently with these random things I'm having, kind of like a plague that's been, and I know it's a zombie plague, and I think I was telling you about it recently, that it's been something that's been constantly happening to me, and I don't know what that means per se, but it kind of is letting me know that I feel like something's going to happen. And I feel like the zombies in my dream are the people that are right now in this world that don't believe in in things that are about to happen, that are happening, that are going to continue to happen. And I'm having these dreams of the war, and I'm losing family members, I'm losing people, and I'm constantly feeling the need to try to warn people in my dream as I am in real life. And it's actually pushing the urges for me to talk more about what I'm experiencing, because I feel like I have to allow people to know what I'm experiencing, because otherwise they won't know about it. And if I don't do that, I feel like I'm guilty and I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. I know I've had some recently, I think I shared with you, just from looking at my dream book. I think recently, I had one where I was, I had, let me see, I had one where I was on a ship, and it was kind of spirits in it, and I was telling my mom I had one where, I came out from it, and it kind of got destroyed, and there was this woman there, and she kind of came out and gave me a hug, and I was trying to warn and help people in it, and I didn't really get the message other than I got that I was helping people, and that was supposed to be something. I had a dream that I was a reaper at my mom's door. I've seen people talk about this. I know the reaper is never good, and then everyone's always talked about it. At my mom's door outside, it didn't come in, and there was a girl waiting on it right behind it, and it came out and smiled behind it. Recently, I had no idea. That would mess me up for a few days, because I didn't know if it was something from someone personally in my life, or if it's someone that in my family, family member that's been ready to occur. And I don't really know where to kind of go from there. I've had dreams about one of my premonitions was Jesus, and this is probably one of my deepest ones I had, was I was in the sky with Jesus, and I was probably like maybe 50 or 60 feet. I couldn't see his face. He was not white. I had this conversation. He was not white. He was very, very, very dark tan, and he was just there. And he had all these people on this rock, mountain rock, and he was there. And he literally, he told people to go into Group A and Group B, and people were there, and people were crying and clapping and yelling and happy, and just in awe. And he just stood there for a while, and in the sky, he literally cut the mountain in half with his hand, just put his hand down. The mountain split right into two, and he took part of the mountain, lifted it, and brought it with him. He then left the remaining part of the people on this mountain as they screamed and cried and begged and pleaded. And it's, to be honest with you, man, it's still one of the ones that trips me out the most, because there was a few people there that I know in my personal life that I love that was there on that rock that didn't get taken with him. And you could take it however. I told people, you could take the message however you want. But that was, to me, one of the deepest dreams I've had, because it's talked about in the Bible, it's talked about in Revelation, it's talked about when he comes back. And that was one of my other reasons of things that kind of helped after the dream I had to warn people to constantly continue to talk about this, to let people know, to talk about, if you have faith, it's going to be questioned, it's going to be pushed. If you know God, continue to push to know God. Know who he is. Find out more about him. Ask for forgiveness. Ask for love and all that. And that dream pushed me more to be okay with the fact that I'm at where I'm at, to talk to people, and I don't have to worry about you judging me for who I am or what I'm talking about, because I've seen that. And that was by far one of the worst things I've dreamt, is watching people be in awe that Jesus left them behind. I've had the dream where I've had the devil sit in my dream and tell me, again, when I'm trying to tell people about what's happening, he's told me with his mind, not with his mouth, he told me in my mind, in my dream, that there's nothing I can do that will stop what's going to happen. These are real. These are real things that have happened to me, and it sounds like, I feel like sometimes it sounds like it's made up, like it's something out of a movie script. But I've seen the devil. I've seen him, a man, bald man, purple black suit, very clean, very sharp, very just kind of elegant. I don't mean to talk about someone of that evil in that way, but just the way, the stature, I can't make the way up what I've seen, and then tell me that nothing I will do will matter to stop what's going to happen, and then have dreams of that with Jesus. I mean, I've had it all, man. I've tried to tell people. Go ahead.
Quick question. Go ahead. It seems like one of the questions I have is, do you feel like some of these dreams, do you feel like they're either Hollywood induced? Do you feel like some of them come naturally? Do you feel like because of the way that your mind is now, with the types of things that we talk about, being exposed to what we're exposed to with the media and entertainment? Do you think they're induced with that? And secondly, I wanted to say that because you're having dreams of the devil come to you trying to stop you, I feel like if anything, that's awareness, or if anything, that's confirmation of the activity that you're actually doing, the awareness that you're actually bringing to the situation. So if you ask me, I feel like by you having these encounters with the devil, that shows that if anything, you're having an effect, and that you're, if anything, engaged in the spiritual war. And if anything, like I said, the question that I had was, do you feel like some of these things are Hollywood induced? And basically, where does the imagery, where do these things kind of come from, or is it kind of just sporadic the entire time?
Yeah, I think that's great. Again, another question. Conversation I've had with somebody close to me that's kind of brought this up a few times, and as I told them, man, this before my awakened state, quote unquote, stay woke. However, people want to clarify the statement now. It wasn't that a few years ago, but however you want to stay, you know what I mean? It's just hilarious how things are moved into a joke. Yeah, but anyway, to your point, no, I don't think it was Hollywood induced. I've had a dream of the devil before when I was a kid. I've seen him out in the field where I was in Africa. It looked like Africa. I mean, from what I've depicted it from Africa, I should say, from National Geographic, other things where I was in the tall yellow grass. I'm just standing looking across this dark embodiment as evil, and just staring at me again, as my other dreams, staring at me, never able to harm me because I feel the blood of Jesus covers me and protects me. I always feel that no matter what because I have that faith. So, feeling comfortable to share that with you guys. I don't think that's Hollywood induced at all. No, I think my heightened awareness has only helped encourage and embrace me to learn more, research more, to go and to have a willingness to try to find out more besides what the news talks about, whatever is induced through the TV or radio or whatever it may be. But I don't think that any of these things are things that are something that are inspired from them at all. If anything, these people, these producers, whoever, these are people that are getting stories, I believe, from things from people, from experiences that they found, from files, and so the archive files, different things. That's my sentiment. I believe that a long time now. A lot of stuff is from, people can have some pretty creative minds. Don't get me wrong, but I also believe there's a lot of things of things that we see that are inspired by other things. They just can't talk about it or however it may be. But no, I don't think that is at all, man. But it has definitely it is more sporadic. I do believe, as you said, with the devil, absolutely. Him coming in my dream, having to show himself. And it's been other times. There was missiles that was happening, flying around my house in one of my dreams. And I was with my family. We were running in kind of trying to jump down into a ditch to cover. And this helicopter that was flying over, shooting missiles over, destroying everything, went vertically up out of nowhere, which we know helicopters really can't do that. Vertically up in the air, and a voice said to me again, it said nothing. There's nothing I can do. So it's been multiple times with the same messages, and as you said, it's not necessarily a compliment is the word I would use, but it's definitely, as you said, something that is something or someone's trying to force me or scare me or push me away from something I'm doing right. So no, I don't think it is at all. And anybody else that's out there experiencing these type of things, I say encourage to continue to get close to God, continue to believe, continue to research, continue to find out more. Because if you're having those type of pushbacks, it's because of how strong you really are. Again, the potential is that our souls is endless. We just don't understand that. And that's what I really believe. I think the potential of what we can give and what we can show, what we have, is so cultivating. But because we don't have the library, the teachings that we want, other than God to call on to kind of give it to us, we don't know how to embrace it. So when I experience these things now, I definitely feel like these evil things, whatever, I definitely feel like somebody's trying to bother me, push me, steer me away. But I just don't feel that no more. No matter how much more I can push on, how hard it is, I believe it's all for a reason. I don't know what the sporadicness is, as you said, why I'll have these random days, I have some of these crazy things, but that's part of the point, is trying to understand why it is, and hopefully one day finding someone or something that can kind of give me a way to put this all together. Unless, of course, God has a different intention on there just being a certain time when that happens. But I definitely believe the point of me writing this all down in a journal has been to eventually, at some point, take all these stories and find a cohesive, consistent point across all of them that will hopefully be able to allow me to understand what I must do next.
That was going to be one of my next questions is, what are your thoughts on lucid dreaming? Have you ever tried to do any of that?
Well, yeah, talking about it, man, I was, again, you and I shared this not too long ago. I had, for anybody that's listening, I had this, I didn't believe in it, honestly. I'll be honest with you. I've never been able to control my dreams much. They come as they go, and I let them go. I know we've all had those dreams where we try to fight somebody, and you try to fight, and your hand gets weak, you can't punch back, or whatever it may be. So those type of things. But to actually have a dream where you can control how it goes, what you want to do, how you want to have it to go, I think I was always afraid of that because the interactions that I could have with these other things, these other paranormals, these other experiences, these other entities, were things that I was always afraid to kind of just tamper with. You know what I mean? I didn't know, what would happen. But I recently had one, again, probably within the last month, and it was a weird dream. I have to look at my journal. I have to go back to remember. As I said, man, there's these things are literally, they come and they stay, and then if I don't read them, it's kind of like the butterfly effect movie. I don't know if you've seen Ashton Kutcher. He has certain things that the only way he can go back to is if you've read it back, and it's just insane how that is with me. But
yep.
In the dream, I was having this crazy dream, and out of nowhere, I was like, man, and out of nowhere, I was like, you know what, man, I'm not dealing with this today. Like I'm tired of this. And I did some. I did some crazy stuff. Anybody that's an anime fan, and it's not, it's fine. I did some Dragon Ball Z stuff, some weird key blast, would you say, type weird stuff. And I literally pushed. I really pushed. I don't know where that came from, but it happened. I really pushed this entire dream out of the way, and I pushed it out, and I just moved it out of the way, almost as if you're hitting the next button on the slideshow. And I was amazed that I did that. I told myself, I'm not having this. I don't feel like doing this today, and just mushed it over. And I was able to go into another dream and just kind of go along with things in a normal state. And I was able to kind of go about enjoying going through that dream fine. And ever since I've been trying to figure out how to do it. But I think that's very interesting. But to your point, what do I think of lucid dream? I think it's something that I didn't have a good thought process behind now, but the more I read about it, it's certainly something that might be able to engage on finding out more of a purpose through it. I think dreams are very, 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 very mysterious, but have so much opportunity to finding out more things that our natural state, when we're awake, can't do or find. Messages and all types of stuff, man, that are there. So, anybody that has lucid dreaming, I would love one day to get more advice about it, but how to do it or understand it, or the connections with that and God, if there is any. But I believe it's definitely something that's good if done right, if good and it's done in good intention. So I think it's something that would hopefully be key to me being able to again figure out what it is that I'm dealing with and what messages that I'm supposed to pass along to myself or anybody else. So.
Well, shoot, Zach, I'm going to say we're definitely going to have you back on, brother, to actually talk about some more of these dreams and talk about your perspective on a lot more things. But if you want to leave, I don't know, do you want to tell the people where they can find more of your work? Do you have any other kind of projects or anything that you're working on?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm working on a book, but that's been it's still an ongoing process. But so I'm not gonna go into that too much yet. But I will, yeah, man. Instagram, who's Zach, WH0S Zach. I do have a fitness apparel line, that I've been working on called Under Construction Fitness Apparel. Very, very key to something that I started with a few partners about a year and a half ago on just kind of being into anyone that likes kind of wearing fitness apparel gear, that's into working out, not being necessarily having to be the biggest person in the gym. It's great. That's awesome, of course, if anybody's like that. But anybody that's under the mentality that's being under construction and before you let me go, under construction itself, just want to give it to anyone that's listening, is a process of rebuilding. And the process of why we've made that name and why it's so cohesive to what we want out of what we have is that when we're trying to rebuild, we're not just rebuilding our body, we're building our minds. So it could be socially, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. There's so many things that go into under construction. So we now have this fitness apparel line that we've now created that now has also a personal training app that's associated with it. That's a little bit different from the MyFitnessPal, if anyone's familiar with that. It's more personalized directly for you.
I was going to say, you guys have an app too, don't you?
Yeah, we do. We got it on Google Play Store and the Apple Store. You kind of we go to buyfitloseweight.com for that. You can sign up. It's actually free for the first month. Free trial. If you don't like it after that, all good. If you do, you have an opportunity to elect and pay a very minimum amount. It's only actually $25 a month. Very minimal. To actually have an online trainer manage your food, your workout exercises. You have an on-site online trainer at all times. If you have any questions, you actually have a set of workouts that walk you through with video play to be able to show you how to do it. So if you're one of those people that go to the gym and you don't want to go with a whole bunch of people, but you don't know what you're focusing on when you go to the gym, it's a perfect opportunity, a perfect app that focuses directly on what you want. You want to work on your butt, your legs, your arms, whatever it is. You don't have to depend on anybody particularly other than what you have on the app. So that, along with the fitness apparel at underconstructionfitnessapparel.biz, where we have our apparel and our gear, are two things that, aside from it all, is something that is branded to eventually expand. We're doing well right now in a couple of different states. With some other big things, I don't like talking about things too much until they come to fruition, but we're working on some really big projects. But definitely something that if anybody has any more questions about, can DM me and reach out to me, and I'd be more than willing to have answers for you guys. But I do want to say, aside from that, man, just from today, I appreciate you, let me share my experiences. I have some time more, so definitely want to be on the show again. But just being able to get it out there, get my stuff out there for people to hear from a voice perspective, just to be able to share what goes on. And this is real, man. And I hope if anybody has heard anything I've said and I've helped anybody, again, anything, please let me know. If not, I just hope that if you're out there and was like me at one point and afraid to speak up, don't be, finding yourself, don't feel that you have to be pushed to the edge to do so, because, again, like I said, if you're experiencing anything like this at all, there's a reason why. It's a very good reason. A lot of times when we go through hardships, there's success that comes out of it. When you fail, there's success that comes out of it. It just has to get to that process. So that's my ending message for everyone that may be listening. And again, as always, man, I appreciate, just being able to hear me out today. So.
Like I said, man, I really appreciate you coming on and just sharing this with us, because I feel like people needed to hear your story. People definitely need to hear more of what you have going on in your life. I feel like that's the best way to connect, to get information. Conversation is the best way to exchange this kind of information. And whenever it comes to all this stuff, all we really have is each other. So we have got to listen to each other. We've got to get this stuff out there. We've got to move forward. We've got to have these types of things come together. I don't know. It just makes that much more sense. So like I said, I really do appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you sharing your story, brother. And we'll definitely talk to you real soon.
Yeah, man, sounds good. And again, very humbly appreciate it, man. And just continue to do what you do, man. I know you always have different things and comments, but I think you're doing a great job. And again, like I said, man, you're doing a lot for a lot of people, man. And again, thank you very much. And hopefully I get to talk to you again soon, man.
You will. People, go buy his shirt, go download his app, go check out his page, go talk to him, and we'll definitely have you back on, Zach. Like I said, thank you for coming on, brother.
Yeah, man, no problem. Have a good one.
You too. And that was it. That was what we were talking about. That was Premonitions, Visions, and Future Sight with Zach. That is what's going on. I know we didn't really get into a whole lot of the premonitions, because I feel like, if anything, these first episodes, whenever we have people on, it's a good way to understand people, so we can go back, they can chronicle, understand that kind of perspective in which we're trying to deliver with these types of episodes and with these types of shows. Clearly, this is something that Zach's been dealing with his entire life. Having things stand over his cradle or his crib, seeing things in his room, the power of prayer. There's the dunamis of the human soul. There's so much that comes with understanding this simple topic alone. This is one of the reasons why I wanted to have him on the show. As we said throughout the entire episode that we kept trying to illustrate, I wanted you guys to see from someone else's point of view yourself, the listeners, the viewers, the watchers, the readers, the people like yourself who are listening from all over the world, who are having these experiences. You're not crazy. You're not wild. I think what's even more crazy is the fact that they're happening at an even larger rate. And as we talked about on the show, clearly there is something that we can do about it. Clearly we are capable. And I have faith in you. I have faith in everyone. I have faith in what we can do. But it's upon us to seize that power and to do something about it. However, that's all I really have for you guys. Like I said, go check out Zach's page. Go check out Under Construction Fitness I think he might put up my video. I hope so. Go check out his page. Go buy a shirt. Go download his app. Go support independent media. Support people that are out there trying to carry this message of compassion, of understanding, of love. This is someone who is putting out conscious information and trying to build a brand with conscious awareness as well. So definitely go support him. But like I said, guys, that's all I really have for you guys. If you have any questions for me, I'll leave my email in the description bar below. And if you have any voicemails, feel free to email me, or feel free to leave one. It's 843-900-6296. But I'll talk to you real soon. Stay vigilant, expose lies, and share truth. This is Noisera, Freedom Faction, out.
And that was it. That was the fantastic special edition that I wanted to share with you guys. There was a lot of stuff going on in that actual episode that I felt like people needed to hear. People needed to have a face, or at least a voice, to understand the types of turmoil that people have to deal with coming to grips with this paranormal ability. This is something that we talk about a lot of on the show. The spiritual implications of things, and I felt by having Zach on, it was a good conversation and a good way for people to understand the types of things that people go with, or the types of things that people have to deal with. But I really do hope you guys enjoyed it. If you want to hear more, definitely go check out our exclusive feed, or go check out our public feed. You can find both of those actually on our website. And as always, guys, stay vigilant, expose lies, and share truth. This is Noisera, Freedom Faction, out.